The village lay wrapped in mist, a ghostly shroud that softened the edges of timber-framed houses and ancient stone walls. Dawn had barely brushed the horizon when the fog crept like a silent river through narrow streets, winding past crooked chimneys and the broken spires of the old castle ruins that loomed like forgotten giants. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, and the whispers of old tales seemed to ride the wind, carried from the dark forest beyond. Each cobblestone held secrets. Every shadow told of long-lost deeds and forgotten oaths, and the villagers moved cautiously as if the past itself might reach out to touch them in the lingering gloom. In a small cottage near the village edge lived Elise, the scribe with eyes full of quiet fire and a gift few understood. She had the rare, whispered talent of hearing stories long gone, voices that fluttered like moths around her, fragments of legends fading from memory. This gift was both her blessing and her curse, while others feared the power she held, for it was said to disturb the delicate balance between the living and the spirits of the past. Elise could not help but listen. Her hands trembled as she copied the faint words into her worn leather journal, striving to keep alive what others wished forgotten. Her family, proud guardians of the village's sacred traditions, regarded her with wary eyes. Her father's voice, stern and heavy with old fears, often warned, "Some stories are best left to sleep, child. The past has chains for a reason." Tensions within her home grew like a storm about to break. Elise's mother wept silently in the kitchen, torn between love and dread, while her brothers whispered of curses and divine punishment. They saw her gift not as a blessing, but as a reckless threat to the fragile peace that held their village steady through centuries of hardship. "Why bring the old shadows back?" her elder brother asked bitterly. Yet Elise, feeling the weight of her calling, stood firm. "If we forget, who will tell the tales? Who will remember the lessons written in blood and fire?" Her voice, though soft, carried the strength of someone determined to keep the flame alive against a gathering darkness. One evening, as the village slept beneath a sky thick with stars, Elise faced a cruel betrayal by fate itself. The story she had just captured, the tale of a cursed duke whose pride had doomed his line, vanished from her screen, stolen by some unseen hand. The words, painstakingly gathered from a whisper in the night, dissolved into silence. Only the haunting voice remained, echoing like a distant lament in her mind, demanding to be heard. The loss was no mere erasure of text, but a theft of truth, a wound in the fabric of the village's history that unsettled hearts and minds alike. The villagers felt the chill of that absence, a silence heavier than any night. Unease rippled through the village like a cold wind. The elders, pillars of ancient wisdom, murmured warnings of dark magic and forgotten curses returning to claim what had been lost. They clung tightly to the old ways, fearing that the fragile thread binding them to their ancestors was fraying. Younger villagers, curious and restless, were drawn to the mystery, whispering about the voice that haunted the edges of their dreams. In the village square, conversations grew hushed and suspicious eyes watched Elise, their once hopeful scribe now shadowed by doubt and fear. Tradition itself seemed under siege, caught between the weight of memory and the uncertain dawn of a changing world. Yet amidst this swirling storm, Elise's resolve hardened like tempered steel. She would not let the vanished story slip forever into the void. The voices that called to her in the night were not merely echoes. They were the lifeblood of her people, the living threads that wove past and present into one unbroken tapestry. Her journey was only beginning, a path marked by loss and courage where silence held secrets yet to be uncovered. The village, cloaked still in mist and mystery, waited with bated breath for the tale to be told again. In this quiet struggle, between forgetting and remembrance, Elise stood as the last hope, the whispering scribe who would make the lost story sing once more. The elders gathered beneath the dim, flickering light of the hall, their faces carved with lines deepened by years of worry and suspicion. Their voices, low yet heavy with centuries of tradition, filled the room with warnings. "You meddle with forces best left untouched, Elise," the eldest intoned, his gaze sharp as a blade. "Such forbidden magic invites curses that could shatter the fragile peace we have preserved through blood and sacrifice." The weight of their judgment pressed upon her like a stone, each word a reminder that she stood alone against the rigid walls of old customs. They spoke of divine wrath and ancestral chains, clinging to their fears as shields to guard the heritage they believed was slipping through trembling hands. Elise met their gaze, silent but unbroken, carrying the heavy burden of their scorn. Outside, the village pulsed with a divided heart. While the elders tightened their grip on ancient fears, the younger folk stirred with a restless curiosity. Drawn like moths to a flickering flame, they gathered quietly around Elise in shadowed corners, eager to hear what the village tried to forget. "Tell us the story again," a boy whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "The one the voice calls. From the dark." Their fascination sparked a fragile rebellion against the suffocating grip of superstition. Whispers of hope mingled with defiance, and in their hushed gatherings the future whispered its promise. Yet this quiet revolt deepened the rift between age and youth, the old and the new locked in a slow, painful dance of change. Within the walls of her home, the storm raged fiercest. Her father, stern and proud, bore the weight of the village's unyielding traditions like a knight bound by oath. "You dishonor us, Elise," he said sharply, eyes blazing with a fierce loyalty to his ancestors. "Your reckless quest invites ruin upon our name. The gods will not forgive such folly." His words cut deeper than any sword, tearing at the fragile threads of their bond. "Turn away from this path, for the sake of our family's honor." The clash between father and daughter was a tempest of love, shadowed by fear and rigid duty, revealing the painful cost of Elise's convictions in a world where loyalty demanded sacrifice. Amidst this turmoil came the arrival of a stranger, cloaked in the learned garb of the city. A scholar whose eyes gleamed with unsettling knowledge and quiet charm. "I can restore what has been lost," he promised, voice smooth like silk, yet edged with something darker. "But such power comes at a price." His presence stirred both suspicion and intrigue, a living embodiment of the perilous dance between progress and forgotten wisdom. Elise felt the weight of his offer pressing upon her, a dangerous pact shadowed by hidden motives. Beneath his polished words lurked the threat of betrayal, and she sensed the fragile thread of trust stretching taut between them. As loyalties shifted like autumn leaves caught in a storm, Elise found betrayal not only in strangers, but within the fragile bonds of family and friends. Whispers of doubt and stolen glances fractured the village's once solid ground. The struggle was no longer merely about a vanished story, but a fierce battle for truth, memory, and the soul of her people. Her resolve hardened like tempered steel. "I will not let silence claim us," she vowed quietly. "Our history, our stories, they will live." The conflict within was a mirror of the greater fight, between holding fast to the past and embracing a future uncertain and wild. All around, the village itself seemed to hold its breath. Its creaking timbers weathered. Stone walls and winding cobblestone streets bore witness to the unfolding strife. Shadows clung to corners where secrets slept, and the stones seemed to murmur forgotten tales beneath the restless wind. This living tapestry of place and memory deepened the pain and hope that coursed through the villagers' hearts. In this world, where land and people were bound as one, Elise's fight for lost stories was also a fight for belonging, identity, and the survival of the soul itself. The village lay under the cold gaze of a pale moon, its silver light spilling over cobblestones and timbered homes. The festival had begun, an ancient gathering where the old tales whispered through the night like ghosts caught between worlds. Lanterns flickered, their flames casting dancing shadows that wove together the past and present, binding the villagers in a fragile web of memory and fear. Old songs rose softly from trembling voices, telling of heroes lost and curses long forgotten. The air was thick with both celebration and unease, as if the very earth held its breath, waiting for the night's secrets to unfold. Beneath the watchful moon, the boundary between what was and what might be grew thin, setting the stage for truths to be revealed and destinies to collide. In the depths beneath the village chapel, Elise moved quietly into a hidden chamber long swallowed by dust and shadow. The air was heavy with the scent of old parchment and the weight of forgotten stories. Ancient tomes lay piled like sleeping giants, their spines cracked and worn, relics of a time when every whispered word carried the power of life and death. Here, in this secret archive, the vanished story stirred like a restless spirit, its voice rising faintly from the silence, urging Elise onward. The chamber was more than stone and paper. It was the fragile thread linking generations, a sanctuary where the village's soul clung to memory and truth despite the ravages of time and fear. The scholar stood near the flickering candlelight, his mask slipping away to reveal a face marked not by kindness but by cold ambition. "You believe in stories, Elise, but knowledge is power," he said, his voice low and sharp. "This village's legacy could be mine to shape, to control." The room seemed to close in as the truth of his plan emerged. He sought not to preserve the living voice, but to silence it, to rewrite history for his own gain. His betrayal was a knife twisting deep into the heart of the community, turning noble pursuit into a hunger for domination. Elise's heart clenched in horror, realizing that the danger was not just in forgotten tales, but in those who would wield them as weapons. The struggle that followed was fierce, a battle not only of strength but of spirit and conviction. Elise faced the scholar with unwavering resolve, each word a shield, each movement a strike for truth. The chamber pulsed with tension, history itself trembling between silence and voice. "You cannot own what lives in the hearts of the people," Elise declared, her voice steady despite the storm raging around her. The scholar sneered, but his confidence faltered against her fierce belief in the power of living memory. This was more than a fight. It was a clash of legacies, a test of what would endure when all else was lost. In that battle, every moment held the weight of justice, sacrifice, and the hope for redemption. At the story's peak, Elise made a choice that would change everything. With courage born of deep love for her people, she released the vanished voice from the scholar's grasp, allowing it to roam free in the minds and hearts of the village. "The story belongs to all," she whispered, "not to chains or pages locked away." Her sacrifice shattered the scholar's hold, breaking the spell of silence that threatened to consume their history. In that brave act, the village found new breath and light. Old wounds began to mend, and the promise of a brighter future took root. Through courage and faith, memory lived on, a living flame to guide the generations yet to come. The first light of dawn crept softly over the village, painting the ancient stones and timbered houses with a gentle golden glow. A quiet peace settled. In the air, a calm that had been missing for many moons. The dark shadow that once haunted the village, the scholar's greed and treachery, had finally lifted. Villagers, who had carried their fears like heavy cloaks, now moved with lighter steps and hopeful hearts. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying a promise that the village could heal, rebuild, and breathe freely again. This new morning was not just the breaking of a day, but the birth of a future woven from shared memories and living stories. Elise walked slowly among the villagers, her presence no longer met with suspicion or scorn, but with quiet respect and warmth. Where once she had been an outcast, now she stood as a guardian of their past, a bridge that connected the old ways to new hopes. Her courage had broken the chains of silence, and her wisdom had rekindled a flame long thought extinguished. Family. and neighbors gathered around her, their faces softening with forgiveness and trust. "You have saved us all," an elder whispered, and in that moment, Elise felt the weight of loneliness fall away, replaced by the strength of belonging. Though the vanished tale did not live on in parchment or ink, its spirit breathed fiercely in the voices of the people. It traveled from mouth to ear, from heart to heart, defying the scholar's attempt to bury it in silence. The villagers came to understand that truth was not locked away in dusty books, but thrived in the act of sharing and remembering together. "A story told is a story alive," Elise often said, "and as long as we speak it, it cannot die." This living memory became a symbol of their resilience, a sacred thread weaving them into a community that would not forget, would not be broken. As the sun climbed higher, children gathered eagerly beneath the open sky, their eyes wide with wonder. Elise sat among them, her voice soft but sure as she began to speak the lost tale aloud. The story, once vanished, now flowed like a river renewed, full of magic, warning, and hope. The children listened, their hearts opening to a past that was no longer distant, but alive and pulsing with life. Through their eager ears and open minds, the village's history found new breath, ready to inspire the generations yet to come, unbroken and shining bright beneath the endless sky.